Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wine.com Experiences. I'm Gwendolyn Osborne. Today, we are talking about the magical grape variety Pinot Noir. And we're approaching it by looking at this one grape and the spectrum of styles that it can produce based on where it's grown and, of course, choices people might make in the cellar. But really, the idea is one grape, three styles. So we have a trio. If you have purchased this trio ahead of time on Wine.com, fantastic. Please go ahead and get the wines open. This is the kind of tasting where you really want to be able to taste each wine side by side, so you can kind of compare and contrast. We're really doing a comparative tasting here of three different unique styles of Pinot Noir. If you don't have the set, it is still available on Wine.com. And of course, as always, this video will live on the Wine.com YouTube channel. Three wines that we are tasting in order. We are having the Domaine Faiveley, Mercury Rouge from Burgundy, France, the Adelsheim, Willamette Valley Pinot Noir, and the Hahn SLH Pinot Noir from Santa Lucia Highlands in California. So I do want to talk a little bit about the idea behind this tasting, which is that one grape in three styles. We kind of want to show you that one grape variety can offer a spectrum of styles based on where it's grown and choices made in the cellar. For Pinot Noir, which is such a delicate, interesting grape, I think that where it's grown really is so reflective in the flavors and aromas and the kind of style that you get. So we selected these three wines that really showcase where they come from. And we've given them terms, one-word terms, earthy, floral, and fruity, but I kind of wanted to define those a little bit further. So when we think of earthy, we're looking at a wine that really offers this very bright, really fresh red fruits coming through. Also, of course, with an earthy undertone, a little bit of dried herbs, maybe some dried tea leaves, but just there's a brightness to it in both the fruit and then the acidity that comes on the palate. When we move over to our floral category, obviously there's going to be a floral note, but the fruit is going to be a little bit more ripe and juicy. And then you get that floral note, a little bit of spice undertones, and typically a slightly richer, heavier texture. Our third style is fruity, and what we mean by that is that there is more of that upfront fruit. It's really a ripe fruit, sometimes even slightly like a baked fruit character, but sweet spice, a rich texture, and yeah, those are our three styles of Pinot. And again, tasting those side by side really kind of highlights both noting the similarities of this grape, but also kind of noting those stylistic differences. So it's a great way to discover Pinot Noir in three ways. So let's bring in our guest who can speak definitely more about the wines and the influences behind the styles. From Domaine Faiveley, we have Erwan Faiveley, who is general manager and owner. Welcome, Erwan.
Hello,
Late night for you. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
From Adelsheim, we have winemaker Gina Hahn. Hello, Gina. Welcome. Thank you so much. And from Hahn Winery, we have Vice President of Winemaking, Paul Clifton. Hello, Paul.
Hi, how are you?
And welcome. So thank you all so much for joining us today. This is one of my favorite tasting sets. I love tasting through these wines. I love all the wines themselves, but they're unique, and so I'm excited to kind of talk about the similarities and, of course, the differences as we taste through them. So. Pinot Noir, kind of going to start off with a big Pinot Noir question. It is, it's a finicky grape. I think that's one of the best one word that people love to use for it, but it's a very delicate grape. And yet it's one of the most beloved varieties around the world. So if you could each maybe speak to what is it about Pinot Noir, kind of that similarity sense that really draws in people, both winemakers and consumers? So, Erwan, I'm going to throw that question to you first.
Sure. There are many tastes out there, as you know. I think what really appeals to people when it comes to Pinot Noir is all the aromatic profile of this grape varietal. You said it. It's very fresh. It's fruity, but yet Pinot Noir is never or it's very rarely overwhelming. It's a very delicate, sweet, very precise type of fruit. And also what I love about Pinot Noir, and that reflects very well here in Burgundy, is how it reveals the terroirs, how transparent it shows what one vineyard has to tell you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that word, transparent. Pinot Noir is transparent. So perfect. Yes, thank you. Gina, what are your thoughts on?
Well, Erwin pretty much nailed it. I mean, Pinot Noir for me, I love it because it is so expressive of the place that it comes from, right? We're all tasting 3 different Pinot Noirs, but there's still a constant thread of that vibrancy, that freshness, that elegant structural quality that Pinot Noir has. But they're all very different as well, right? They tell you the story of where they were grown and how they were grown.
Yeah, perfect. You guys are, yes. Oh, Paul, what about you?
Yeah, no, it's a variety that really tells the truth. It tells the truth about where the grapes are planted, the land, tells the truth about the weather, the climate, and it tells the truth about the people behind it, nurturing the vines and making the wines. And there's no cheating it. You can't cheat Pinot Noir. It'll tell the truth every time.
That's perfect. Yeah, you can't fake this grape. It's like
no, and it's like this is the first time I'd ever tasted Erwan's Pinot from this region of Burgundy, and now I want to go visit. I want to go see it. I want to go visit him and see it. That's what it's all about,
It is. So yeah, I think that I love that, the transparency, the story, the truth telling. This is Pinot Noir, and it's just so reflective. It just kind of is that mirror, I think, for where you are, and that sense of place that I think that people love, especially when they taste it. They're like, I gotta go there. Let's do it. So let's move on to tasting the wines. We are going to start with the Burgundy, the Domaine Faiveley Mercury Rouge. So Erwan, as you mentioned, Burgundy and Pinot Noir, it's the classic region for this grape. What makes Burgundy so ideal for Pinot Noir?
Well, actually, Burgundy, when you're talking about Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, because Chardonnay is the other great varietal of Burgundy, Burgundy is the cradle for those 2 great varietals. Where it comes, where it originates, we are not so sure. What we know is that Burgundy, the vineyards have been planting in Burgundy for almost ever. Charlemagne, the emperor, owned all the hill of Corton for his own consumption. But what we really know is that at some point, at the beginning of the millennial, when the Cistercian monks began to plant, to heavily plant the Burgundy, they discovered that Pinot Noir, there was this great varietal, Pinot Noir, that was totally outperforming all the others. And in 1395, so that's quite some time ago, in 1395, Philippe le Hardy, the Duke of Burgundy, passed a law to forbid everything else, anything else than Pinot Noir, and that's really what made what Burgundy is today. And why is this? I believe Pinot Noir, Burgundy is when you look at the soil of Burgundy, there's always a balance between clay and limestone. And clay and limestone, we have discovered that Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, of course, but Pinot Noir really loves those type of soil. And depending on the soil, you'll have a little more clay here, a little different type of limestone here, and coming back to today's truth that Paul was talking about, the ancients, all the monks, all the generations that have passed by here in Burgundy have discovered that yes, this grape varietal is not only great, but it reflects so much depending on where it comes from.
Yeah. And Faiveley, you're coming up on a century. of wine.
2 centuries. 2 centuries. Actually, we will celebrate our 200th anniversary.
Oh, 200. Why
in,
was I in 1800s? Dang it.
Yes, that's
Everything
correct.
here is making me feel old, like Adelsheims being 50, you're 200. I just kind of like need to rewind time. Okay, sorry, 200, 2 centuries.
Yeah. So I'm the 7th generation. I took over my father 15 years ago, running the Domaine alongside with my sister now.
Yeah.
And so over 200 years, we first started as negociant, meaning that we were buying fruits, turning them into wine. But we have always been convinced that to make the greatest wines as possible, you need at the end you need to own your own vineyards, and that's what we've done. We have reinvested our profits into buying vineyards, and today we are mostly a grape producer. We are a Domaine rather than a negus.
Was that 100 years ago? Did I get that? But was it 100 years ago you started writing vineyards? Am I just totally off?
Yeah. Well, over those 200 years, yes, we bought quite a few things. And today, those vineyards that we own would provide most of the fruit for the wines we do, which is quite unique for Burgundy.
Yeah, that's hard to do. How have you seen just the family, your father, just how have you seen maybe Pinot Noir and Burgundy evolve over the past several decades, at least? Anything, or are you taking tradition?
It's a great question. I think that we have seen two main drivers here, trends, because there are trends in wine. 10, 20 years ago, Robert Parker was the one who said, this is what a wine should look like. It should be bold, it should be big, it should be extremely, it should be black and dense and high in alcohol. And today the trend is shifting. And it's true that Pinot Noir in this shift is has a card to play. And also, coming back to this is the trends, and also I think what we've seen over between my grandfather, and myself is climate change. It's true that over 30, 40 years, we've seen wines are getting riper and riper, which is great because back then it was very classic to chaptalize wines. I think last time we've chaptalized was a number of years ago. So now every year wines, the grapes will be ripe, and I wouldn't say it's a game changer, but it really helps. I'm the lucky generation, let's put it that way.
Okay, got it. And just to clarify, chaptalization is when you add sugar before fermentation to add more alcohol, correct?
Exactly. Yes. Because
for those that might not know, that's if something is not ripe enough. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, when sugar ripeness arrives later than the aromatic ripeness. Mm-hmm. So when you decide to pick because you believe you have everything you need in your wine, but still you are at let's say 12 degree. We know that the wines express itself much better when you're at 13 or so. So you would add just a little bit of pure sugar to hit that extra 13.5.
Yeah, which people enjoy. So let's taste the wine. And I would love for you to speak a little bit about how obviously this Pinot reflects where it's from, especially it's from Mercury.
Yes.
Mercury, the region.
Mercury is in the south of Burgundy.
Yes, it's southern.
Yes, it is called. It's part of Côte Chalonnaise. So it's below in Burgundy. You have Côte de Nuit, Côte de Beaune, and Côte Chalonnaise. Mercury is right in the middle of Côte Chalonnaise. It's a village that produces mostly red wine, but also produces some very nice Chardonnay. And talking about what I was talking about between clay and limestone, in Mercury, you tend to have quite some limestone, not so much of clay. And that reflects in the wine in a sense that, as you know, clay tends to retain water, and especially in pretty dry vintages, it prevents it prevents vineyards to dry up. If I say, as you know, in Burgundy we are not allowed to water our vineyards, so having clay is key. In mercury, clay is there's not much clay, which means which translates in the wine being that those wines are very bright, on nice, fruity, elegant, yet if you compare them to Côte de Nuit or Côte de Beaune, for example, the fact that this clay is missing, you won't have the depth nor the density you will find further north. And this is why that Côte Chalonnaise are known as being easy drinking wine, because those wines are easy to drink. They are you can see they have a little high acidity, which make them very enjoyable. As I said, easy to drink. That's how I would describe Mercury in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting all this strawberry, cranberry, rhubarb, Bing cherry, just all those really bright red fruits, but just like fresh off the vine. And then that acidity, like you said, is just, it's so pretty. But it's so well balanced.
Just like you said, in Mercury we have a monopole that is called La Framboisière. So this name is coming from long time ago, from the Middle Age, and framboise means raspberry. So that's exactly what you said. You will have this nice red fruit into this wine, and that's this is why it's called framboisière. Yeah. And the mercury also, the mercury you drink here is a blend. As you know, we try to be very specific, vineyard specific in Burgundy, but in Mercury we are quite a large owner, and we have many different plots in Mercury, and this bottle is a blend of a few plots that we own all over the village that we blend to make one Mercury.
Yeah. And just, that doesn't mean blend of grapes, just so everybody knows this, these are all 100% Pinot Noir. I know, I just want to, I feel like sometimes when people hear blend, they think of the grapes, and this is a blend of the plots, like you said, yeah.
Actually,
and then there's, yeah, go ahead.
Coming back to, I talked about Philippe Le Hardy in 1395, when he passed that law, he said, because Pinot Noir is delicate but quite inconsistent. And back in the Middle Age, they used to blend it with Gamay. Gamay is the grape that you will find in Beaujolais. And Philippe Le Hardy said when he passed that law, he said, I want Burgundy wines to be pure. I want Burgundy wines to be my wines to be only in Pinot Noir. And therefore, if you blend something else than Pinot Noir, you'll be beheaded. So basically, when you drink a Burgundy wine, you are sure that you will have 100% Pinot Noir, and this is why we never write it on the label, because it's well, today you won't be beheaded, but still, it's still not.
The threat is still there, and yeah, that's good. That's very interesting. But yeah, no, this is beautiful. That freshness, great acidity, that a little bit of that dried herb kind of character too. That as we call it, the earthy note, but the really bright fruit too. So thank you so much. It's delicious. Oh, food. What do you? Pinot Noir is so food friendly. You've got to tell me what you would like to eat with this.
I would answer saying that our best customer for this wine is a restaurant in Paris that I love. One of my favorite restaurants called Brasserie Lippe. And next time you come to Paris, you should really go there. It's a bistro, one of the most popular bistro in Paris, and that's exactly what I would have. Simple bistro food. I know, and there my favorite dish would be tripe sausage. I know it's not popular in the US, but tripe sausage from Brasserie Lippe with this is just heaven. It's just awesome.
Parfait. Yes, you're just making me want to go to France. Okay, lovely. Thank you. Yes. Perfect. So a beautiful brasserie bistro wine. So
that's right.
Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. So we shall move on to our floral category, if you will, into the Willamette Valley of Oregon. So Gina, Oregon has made a name for itself with Pinot Noir over the past several decades. In fact, Adelsheim is celebrating its 50th year, which I was like, really? How's that? Yeah, really? Am I that old? Yeah, no, congratulations. That's wonderful. So yeah, I feel like the Pinot there has really just come about and come of age and evolved over these 50 years. But Oregon and Pinot Noir, Willamette Valley, here we are. What makes Willamette Valley so ideally situated for Pinot Noir, do you think?
Well, I mean, it's all of the usual things, right? We have an amazing, cool climate, which is great for Pinot Noir because it creates a longer growing season with a bit more hang time, but does not get too ripe, right? And you still have that nice vibrant acidity that doesn't go away. So I think the climate obviously is the first thing. And then also the soils that we have are really amazing. We have a lot of volcanic soils in the Willamette Valley, as well as some sedimentary sites, and then some windblown loess. And actually the AVA that the winery is in, the Chehalem Mountains AVA, has all three of those soil types that are sort of characteristic of the region. But really, I think, beyond just the functional side of where you're planting and how you're growing, I think the success of Oregon really has to do with the people. And you can see David Adelsheim in the picture there, right? It was a handful of families 50 years ago that started this. It was the Letts, it were the Ponzis, and David and Ginny Adelsheim and Dick Urath. And, those people didn't have a template to work with, right? I mean, they were sort of on the frontier of grape growing in the United States. And they succeeded by collaborating, by banding together and working together and really trying to have that be an ethos that carried through, 50 years later to today. And it has, I mean, it's hard to describe, I think, on the outward side to people what that looks like, but it's Louisa Ponzi, they broke a press bag a few years ago and they called us up and we brought her ours because she knew that we had the same type of press. It's things like that. Everyone kind of knows each other. It's a fairly small, pretty tight-knit industry. And I think that really has a lot to do with the quality of the wine that is produced from this region because, it's about like raising the boat of Oregon. Not so much as, I'm doing this one thing better than everyone else, right? It's about like that collaborative nature.
Right. Yeah. All tides, all boats raised. But anyway, yes, I get the analogy. And I've noticed that too of Oregon. Often everybody kind of knows each other. They all work together. And I think that when you kind of start and you're pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, trying to figure everything out together, you have to share I guess all that knowledge that comes with it in those first few years, few decades maybe. But there's a collaborative nature, and I know it's kind of hard because there's so many differences among the wineries and the subregions here. But if you were to have to characterize a classic Oregon Pinot Noir, like what are the hallmark characteristics that come through if somebody's like, I kind of want to try Oregon Pinot Noir, what will I get?
I mean, it's hard to describe, right? And it is a rather large AVA. Most of the wineries are concentrated in the northern section of the Willamette Valley. So typically what we see there are very fresh fruits. I think it more as like the cherry kind of profile, like it's a fresh cherry, fresh dark cherry kind of note. A lot of floral qualities, more like in the lavender spectrum. Sometimes even some lilac, and then really beautiful silky textures. So it's not too, pokey as far as the tannins. They're very supple. And there's a great ageable quality with Oregon Pinot Noir, I think, because it has such vibrant acidity because of our cool climate. So it's really ageable. So for me, it's the quality of the wine having presence, but not weight. Over, it's not like a heavy wine. It's very fluid across, like dynamic across your palate, but still has something memorable about it that kind of keeps you coming back for another sip.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back for another sip and smell. So if you can kind of maybe walk us through specifically the Adelsheim flavor profile. I mean, again, you're 50 years. There's just been so many innovations there. I remember I went gosh, I think it might have been like in 2010 maybe that I was there. And it was the most beautiful bathroom of any winery I've ever been in. One of my memories. I don't know if you've met it. Must have been fully renovated. Anyway, but talk us a little bit through kind of how Adelsheim, this reflects, especially the Sahel Mountains and the choices made in the cellar in this wine.
So most of this wine, most of our Willamette Valley is from our own parcels. We do have some fruit that we will work with and find, but for the most part, it tends to be weighted more heavily towards our own estate properties. And the Willamette Valley is really sort of an introductory wine. It's to kind of hook people into the region and, get them to explore some more and start looking at the different AVAs that we have and, specific single vineyards that are grown there and are just fabulous. So it's kind of meant to represent like, this is our region. And then within that, there are always ways to explore more.
Right. Yeah. And I get that. I get that lavender that you're talking about there. And then, sometimes more than what the fruit is, I sometimes talk a little bit more about the ripeness of it. So whether or not it's tart, juicy, or fresh, juicy, or really ripe. And this is that kind of fresh and juicy red cherry fruit going on too. And yeah, it's supple, it's beautiful. It just kind of silkily goes down. So quite lovely. What about food pairings for you? What are your top notes on this?
Well, anyone who's been out to Oregon knows we have really amazing wild salmon here, and it goes so well. We do a lot of grilling at my house, especially this time of year in the summer. And, it's amazing with grilled or cedar plank salmon. And then more in the fall, like hazelnuts start to come out and wild mushrooms are out. And, Pinot Noir, I think, again, it goes well with the food that grows around it, and so for me, that's what we eat a lot of chanterelle mushrooms at our house, maybe some fresh pasta, just, something that's not too heavy, not too weighty, but something that has some substance to it.
And flavor to kind of bring that out. Yeah. Sometimes if you don't know what to eat, it's like, well, where is it grown? Eat what's there. And I did have the privilege of living in Portland for 2 years. And yeah, you've got hazelnuts, you've got salmon. I mean, that's all there. And delicious, and it does go so well with it. So, well, thank you. This is beautiful. Again, very fresh, both the acidity, the fruit, everything. It's beautiful with that lavender and the floral too. So, thank you for making such delicious wine. Okay, we're going out into our fruity category, and I know it's not the best name, but it's because we kind of, this is, I guess, our style where the fruit really kind of is in that forefront for what we're doing. So the Hahn Pinot Noir, Paul, greetings. Santa Lucia Highlands. What does this place offer in terms of the kind of climate to nurture Pinot Noir?
Yeah, so we are located very close to the coast. We have the Monterey Bay, which is pretty much a regulator. It's like a refrigerator for our growing region, for the Salinas Valley itself. Salinas Valley is a very large valley, very fertile on the valley floor. And up on the ridge line on the western slope, you have some alluvial fans that jet out, and very well drained, not hardly any clay, gravelly sandy loams. We have to irrigate. It's, the vines won't survive without irrigation. But we've got regulation of temperature by the ocean. So every morning or every night, the fog moves in from the ocean, covers the AVA, and it burns off, usually around 10 or 11 in the morning. Earlier in the southern part of the AVA, the AVA actually runs north to south, north being closest to the ocean, south being further inland. So the fog will burn off in the south a little bit earlier, a little bit more sunshine earlier on. And then you have about 2 to 3 hours of photosynthesis or sugar being produced during the growing season. And then deep in the Salinas Valley down by Paso Robles, where they grow a lot of Bordeaux varieties, it gets 100 degrees down there. and you have this uplifting of hot air from the southern part of the valley, and it needs to be replaced by something. It's being replaced by the Monterey Bay, basically. So you're having these winds regulating the temperature that are 50, 55 degrees on a daily basis. And as it moves through the valley, it actually slows down photosynthesis and stops it. So you're kind of getting like this more rich, like darker color, because you're getting the grapes hanging out there with no sugar being developed, but you're getting the phenolics, the tannins, the color developing in the fruit, just kind of a lot of hang time. So our harvest really doesn't even start till the 15th of September typically, and lasts through the middle of October. That's really because a large part of that is because of the factor of the wind.
The wind coming through. Yeah, I was good. I mean, I think you kind of answered my next question, which had to do a little bit about, what separates a style from others. I mean, everybody's kind of in a cool climate. You have the wind, but making this wine a little bit more rich and bold, you're saying that's kind of the heat without the photosynthesis, right?
It's the sunlight.
The sunlight.
So just like my skin, if I'm in the sun a lot, it's getting darker. Without the sugar being pumped into the grape, it's getting darker. There's longer hang time. You're getting more phenolic development, more color in the skins, the seeds ripening.
Yep.
It's going from green to brown. So you end up with a wine, especially in the southern part of the AVA, that has more structure, more richness, more voluptuous, versus in the northern part of the AVA, where you have a little more fog, a little less wind, you're getting a more elegant Pinot Noir. So this particular wine is a blend. So we've got 4 vineyards in the AVA, and they're spread from north to south. So it's a really good representation of the AVA as a whole, because you're kind of getting that elegance along with the voluptuousness, and it really leads to a wine that's very versatile in terms of food as well.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit as I'm tasting through it, because am I the only one drinking here? But
yeah,
tell us a little. Somebody join me for the class. Yeah, good, thank you. If you could just kind of walk us through a little bit, just kind of like some of the flavors you're getting, and then as we taste it, maybe the texture and kind of how that's representing where it's from.
Yeah, so typically with Pinot Noir from this AVA, you're going to get darker fruit, a little I call it like black fruit, dark cherry, dark black cherry. You get some cola notes. On the mouth, you still have a lot of acidity. A lot of times, even though we're picking really late, we're a lot of times waiting for the acidity to come down to a level where we think it's good. It's not going to rip the enamel off your teeth. So we're not really looking a whole lot at sugar. We're looking more at the acidity coming down, and a lot of that has to do with that regulation of the Monterey Bay. Our nighttime temperatures, or whatever the temperature is of the Monterey Bay, which is about 50 to 55 degrees, and you're not getting any respiration of malic acid, or it's really just kind of stabilizing. You're just it's a waiting game. So the wines will typically have not quite as acidic as the Burgundy that we're tasting, or the wine from Willamette, but you'll still have, we're still waiting. So you kind of get like a more lush mouthfeel, a little more black fruit, roundness to the silky tannins, a little more structured than a typical Pinot Noir.
Yeah, and that's why we're kind of doing this, is to show that I feel like they're all kind of balanced with where the fruit is, whether or not it's fresh or tart and juicy versus very, very ripe. You kind of want the textural and the acidity to kind of match where you are in that level, and I feel like these all do that.
And we don't. And the other, kind of interesting thing about this growing area, really anywhere south of Monterey Bay all the way down to Santa Rita, is that we don't get a lot of rainfall. We get, this year we got 7 inches. Our typical rainfall is around 15 inches of rain, and that's all in the months of November through March. So we don't have any competition during harvest with dealing with botrytis or anything like that. So it really leaves a consistent vintage year after year.
Yeah, that's it's true. It is consistent. So if you love this wine, you're gonna like the next vintage. But you had mentioned about pairing with food, so I'm gonna ask you a little bit about your favorite food pairings with this wine as well.
God, experiment. I'm a big fish fan as well. I had this with oily fish like trout. I had it last weekend with a big old trout I caught up in Lake Tahoe, and it was fabulous. Salmon, same thing. I love it with duck breast. It holds up well. It'll even hold up well to a tri-tip, a steak, because it's got some structure in there.
Yeah. No, Pinot Noir is kind of that wonderful in-between wine that can go with certain things that people often think go with white wine, or they go with things that often go with red wine, but there's so much complexity and interest in it. So, so thank you. Beautiful. The other thing, I guess, to finish off, I kind of want to talk a little bit about aging Pinot Noir, because as we've mentioned, it's a delicate grape. It doesn't have that thick skin with like massive tannins. So how does one always know when to age a Pinot Noir? Maybe you can each speak to that from like where you are, how to know when to age a Pinot Noir from a specific region, and then what can they look forward to when they do? So Erwan, do you want to take that, or just
Sure.
Pinot Noir in Burgundy?
I think it's very terroir, and I'm talking for Burgundy. I think it's very terroir dependent, but also vintage dependent. There are vintages that are very that produces big structured Pinot Noir, and obviously they age better than lighter type of vintages. And also talking about terroir, we tasted a mercury tonight, and mercury usually you shouldn't age this type of wine too long, because what you want is to drink them on the fruit. When you age a Pinot Noir, you want to have the profile, the aromatic profile change, and the reality is that in Mercury they will change, but not the wines won't get much better. Whereas Côte de Nuit or Côte de Beaune, in many great vintages, wines will just build itself into bottles. Here at the Domaine, we are lucky because we have quite an extensive vinothèque coming from my father, grandfather, etc. The oldest bottle between Clos Vougeot 1908 that I had the chance to taste a few years ago while we were recorking it, and the wine was extraordinary. More than 100 years old, and the wine was splendid.
Okay, so if people wonder what things will taste like or how they'll evolve, we just need to visit you, right? That's kind
and
of.
you're very much welcome, indeed.
We're just going to show up there. No, I think you're right of looking at the place, the vintage, to make sure it's something worth putting down. So, but beautiful. Thank you. Gina, what about, you kind of touched on that a little bit before, but for Adelsheim and Oregon, when do you know to age a wine? What can you expect it to look like down the road?
So we don't have the same length of library as Erwan, but for the Valley, ours is relatively extensive. So we do get to go back and taste wines that are, routinely 40 years old or 45 years old. And it is remarkable how well they're hanging on. Some of those early vintages that David made are extraordinary, and there aren't too many bottles left anymore, unfortunately. But what tends to happen is there's the wine itself is a bit more light and delicate, obviously, but it still seems to hold on to that fruit that we have, the wonderful fruit qualities, and it develops and becomes more of a tertiary quality, but it's still sort of like the central piece of the wine. And then the vibrant acid that we have really helps with that ageable quality as well. Like it carries the wine through time. So I prefer personally drinking wines more in like the 5, 10, 15 year range, but Oregon Pinots, I will typically stocks them away in the cellar and forget about them for a while, come back to them later.
I think that's an important note, is that some people think, oh, well, if this can age, I should age it. But your personal preference might not be what happens, because again, some of the fruit kind of evolves, becomes more dried. You get those tertiary, and some people just don't enjoy that. I also am a 5 or 10 year on certain wines, so that's kind of to be noted. So, you can definitely age it, but continue to try it and drink them all when you love them, I guess.
Exactly.
Paul, what about the Santa Lucia Highlands and Hahn?
Yeah, we don't have quite the history. The AVA was established in 1992, so much younger, and we do have wines stashed away that are tasting fabulous. In my opinion, if it tastes good now, drink it. But if you want to age it, and we've got a library of wines dating back 15 years, 16 years, and they're tasting fabulous as long as they're aged well. Don't age them like this. These are wines you want to drink like in the next couple months. Put them in the fridge.
That's your background, right? That's just your background.
Yeah. So how they're stored is very important, I think, if you're gonna try to age a wine. Keep it cellar temperature, 50, 55 degrees, and then see how it lasts. So
yeah, it's good. It's all about experimenting and enjoying. So, well, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all at home for joining us to taste these wines. I think this was amazing tasting. I think there was great similarities, but also wonderful differences to kind of show that sense of place for Pinot Noir, which obviously it very well reflects. Thank you, Erwan, Gina, and Paul, for your time. Erwan staying up late. Thank you. Stay well.
Super.
And cheers to everybody.
And congratulations, Gwendoline. Super. You did a great job. That was extremely interesting. Right.
So, Pinot Noir makes me happy. So let's just.
Likewise.
Exactly. So, cheers to you all. Thank you.
Paul, bye-bye. À bientôt.
À bientôt.
It's both a science and a form of high art. It's made from the combination of grapes, sunlight, rain, soil, and time. It's raised up in the moments that matter. It's wine. And we are Wine.com. We have the largest wine selection in the world, online sommeliers with free advice, and now our powerful new app puts the entire world of wine in your hands. Wine.com. Seriously passionate about wine. Download our free app today.